I think that is one of the major takeaways that that Zimbabwean activists and across the continent have seen. Activists from Uganda and Nigeria have already been mentioned, and other places who have made similar comments, and that I think it plays a really important role wherever the protest movement goes from here. We hope and pray that there is that the movement continues to grow and to build and achieve its ultimate goals. But I think that injection of energy and hope is a really important victory in and of itself. I think in terms of what has really been key, as we've kind of watched from the outside, and what has been so effective, I think. I'll reiterate, I think, what a lot of others have mentioned, but what we have observed how unified the Kenyan people have been, particularly the Gen Z generation. Seeing posters saying tribeless, partyless, fearless, really kind of captured the essence of this movement and what has been so powerful about it. And I up to them. So, and I think, when I was listening to Nerima earlier around some of the other causes of the movement beyond just the finance bill, I think so much of that deeply resonates with people in Zimbabwe, in our experience, and I'm sure many other African countries as well. You spoke about endemic corruption, total lack of accountability, and this very in-your-face impunity, the total breakdown of the healthcare system, total lack of listening or public participation merely for the sake of it, but without really taking into account what people really think. When you were saying all of those things, Nerima, it sounded like you were speaking about my country. And so I think there's a huge amount that those of us outside of Kenya resonate with the core issues that have motivated the movement, and really start asking the question, well, why not here? And I think initially one of the rebuttals or the sort of naysayers in a place like Zimbabwe often would say is, well, the conditions in Kenya are completely are different to here. This is Zimbabwe is more repressive. If you go to the streets, the military will just be deployed and will kill you. And what we have seen is that in Kenya, that has also been the case. There has been extreme levels of repression, 39 people killed so far that we know of. And yet people, young people have been determined to, number one, keep going out, keep the momentum going, and number two, to maintain nonviolent discipline, which I think has been a really critical success factor of this protest movement in Kenya. Of course, there have been, as Boniface alluded to, there have been real efforts to try and derail that, and to deploy goons into protests in order to derail things and have the movement degenerate into riots. But I think there has been creative and thoughtful engagement from young people in Kenya to try to avoid that happening. And I think that is going to be, as this movement goes forward, I think that's going to be one of the critical kind of success factors in terms of the extent to which the movement is able to maintain that discipline. So as I think of kind of where to from here for the Kenyan movement, as well as for those of us in the rest of the continent who kind of resonate deeply with what is happening. I think that there's a few things that I would say. I think one, in terms of the life cycle of movements, I think it is likely that there will be a dip from the peak that happened, over the past couple of weeks. If you look at social movements globally, this is a phenomenon that is often seen in social movements, that there is a trough immediately after the initial peak. But that becomes a really critical time. It'll be a critical time for Kenya, and a critical time for the rest of the continent as we watch this movement as well. Because in that dip of mobilization arises a real opportunity to build the movement, to build organizational capacity within the movement, to seek to develop a diverse range of tactics, and it's in that immediately post the kind of the first peak, that immediate trough, that the real kind of movement building takes place and determines the long-term success or failure of a movement. So I think that is one of the things I would really encourage my Kenyan brothers and sisters to, if that happens, and to some extent there has been a slight dip in that mobilization, not to lose heart, but to see that as an opportunity to continue organizing at the grassroots and mobilizing for longer term action. I think the second thing which is going to be critical is the response to repression, for them harness that repression so that it actually backfires and increases more mobilization. Nick, you spoke about the wide support that the movement has beyond just the Gen Zs. I think that's going to be a really critical thing for the movement to figure out how to shift those passive allies in other generations within Kenyan society, to shift them from being passive allies towards being more direct and active allies.
Thanks so much for that, Doug.
And then I think the last thing that I would say, just in terms of the significance of for the broader continent, are two things. I think one has been the emphasis that has been placed on the constitution. Put effect, and I think that's true of a lot of other African countries, Zimbabwe included, where we have constitutions, some of which have been born out of kind of conflict and contested political space, and a lot of those constitutions say that power resides with the people, that people have a right to peacefully demonstrate, etc. But those rights, those founding values of our constitutions, have essentially been subverted. And what Kenyans have done, and what I think we in Zimbabwe and across the continent need to do, is really lay hold of our constitutions and put those rights into effect. So more power to you as you going forward, and I hope that we can really learn from that. And then the other side of that then has been the strand in this movement in Kenya, which is challenging neocolonialism and the kind of austerity measures which directly affect the poor, sometimes pushed by international financial institutions like the World Bank and IMF, etc. And I think that's a really critical element of this, because I think there's a strong sentiment of that across the continent, and we have seen another manifestation of this kind of anti-colonial, anti-neocolonial sentiment in what's happened in the Sahel with military coups, etc. And I think what Kenya provides is an alternative response to that, to say that we are not happy a lot of with the kind of the neo-colonial excesses or tendencies on the continent, but rather than instituting military coups, which has long-term detrimental effects on the nation, if young people can harness their power, harness their agency towards creating a society that cares for the most vulnerable of the society, where there is justice, where there's peace, where there is accountability, and where the people of that society, of all of our African countries, really are the stockholders, the stakeholders, the owners of that country, and have a real say in how our countries are governed. So to close, I would just say thank you so much to all of you in Kenya who have been pushing so hard. Don't give up. Keep going. I hope that we will continue to learn many lessons from this movement, and that we may see, a youthquake, as the title of this space has put it, all across the continent, as we take our countries and our continent towards a better future. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Great words, and really good, I think, for everyone here to hear how much the Kenyan movement has inspired people elsewhere, and also to learn the lessons from someone who's at the forefront